Now, once he got on, did he ever reach back to you?
Yeah, Jay had me come and do Summer Jam with him one year. I think that was the time when he had that.
Me and Pac went in the studio and did a song together. And then them little dudes.
Outlaws.
Yeah.
Outlaws.
They came, like, as soon as we got there, they came up to Pac talking about, yo, Lauryn Hill dissed you, Mobb Deep dissed you.
Yeah, it's true. Tupac, he really had an issue with Jay-Z. He really didn't like him then.
Not at all. I think that if Pac was alive, it would have been a whole different story. And as much money as Jay-Z has, he still hasn't accomplished what Tupac accomplished before he was at 25.
Big Daddy Kane just stepped up and dropped a truth bomb that's got fans side-eyeing everything we thought we knew about Jay-Z's rise to the top. And baby, what he said, nobody saw it coming. The smooth-talking legend didn't just speak. He low-key peeled back the curtain on one of hip-hop's biggest origin stories, and the picture ain't nearly as clean as we've been told. Let's rewind real quick. Everybody in the know understands that Jay-Z didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was Big Daddy Kane who gave Hav his first real shot, put him on stage, let him sharpen his bars and live ciphers, and basically opened the door to the building Jay now owns. That ain't gossip, that's historical fact. But somewhere along the way, as Jay's empire grew brick by platinum brick, Kane's name got buried like an old demo tape. No shout-outs, no flowers, no homage, just silence. And here's where things get real spicy. Kane didn't just name drop Jay, he pulled Tupac into the conversation. Because while Kane was out here laying the foundation for Jay in the East, Pac was lighting up the industry, exposing the snakes, and calling out the fakes, including, according to some insiders, throwing lyrical shade straight at Jay. So now we're asking the question that Kane's subtle shots seem to demand. Did Jay-Z just borrow inspiration? Or did he flat out build his legacy on the backs of the legends and then ghost them once the throne was his? You see, Kane didn't scream, he didn't rant, but that calm tone, that was surgical, like he knew exactly what he was doing. And if you listen closely, you'll hear what he's really saying. Jay didn't just take notes from the greats. He might have taken the whole blueprint, and just like that, the narrative shifts. Stay tuned because this rabbit hole, it goes deep.
Oh, hold up. Tupac is a lyricist. See what I'm saying? It's just that he's not one of those lyrical MCs that spit stuff, but his stuff is, he spit deep lyrics that touch.
And yet somehow, his name got cut out the final draft of the legend. Interesting, huh? Now here's where the tea gets extra hot, because folks love to talk about Jay-Z's hustle like he built everything from the ground up. But what they rarely mention is the man who handed him the first real shot, Big Daddy Kane, back in the early 90s. Jay-Z wasn't the mogul, the icon, or even the rising star. He was just another hungry MC trying to be heard. And who stepped in when nobody else? Would Kane. That's right. During his Chocolate City tour, Kane brought young Hav along, not as some guest of honor, but as a raw, unproven rapper who was handed the mic while Kane was literally changing outfits backstage. Think about that. Jay was freestyling in the shadows of a legend just for a chance to catch the crowd's attention. That's how far back this goes, but Kane didn't stop there. This wasn't just a favor for a friend. He went to bat for Jay. He helped record demos, cut tracks, and sent them off to labels that should have been dying to sign a talent like Jay-Z. But here's the kicker, according to Kane himself, those same labels weren't buying what Jay was selling. His flow, too fast. His style, not commercial enough. They just weren't feeling him. Let that sink in. Before the Grammys, before Roc Nation, before Beyond, Jay-Z was getting passed over left and right. And the only one fighting for him was Big Daddy Kane. That's not just support, that's foundation level loyalty.so. When Kane speaks on this history now, it ain't just storytelling. It's a quiet reminder. I was the one pushing the cart when nobody even saw the grocery store.
Jay-Z, I heard that no one really wanted to sign him when you was shopping him around the record labels. Is that true?
Yeah. This was, I want to say, I don't know, 90, 91 maybe. We was, Jay, we recorded some songs, probably about 4 or 5 songs on Jay-Z, and shopped them to
several different record labels, and they all.
Look, now this is where the love story turns shady. Big Daddy Kane didn't just toss Jay-Z a lifeline, he believed in him when the entire industry closed its ears. Even after every label said nah, Kane stayed firm, trusting that Jay would eventually grow into something big. And guess what? He was absolutely right. Jay did rise not just to fame, but to a level of power few rappers have ever touched. But here's the messy part. Once Jay climbed the mountain, Kane's name got left behind at base camp. Now don't get it twisted, Kane's fingerprints are all over Jay's early flow. That rapid fire cadence, that slick delivery wrapped in confidence. That's classic Kane DNA. And yet, when Jay-Z finally got the mic to tell his story, the interviews, the documentaries, even the pages of his memoir decoded the man who helped mold him into a performer barely got more than a sentence. A lil thank you, a nod, and that was it. No heartfelt tributes, no real homage. Just a cold shoulder covered in designer threads. And Kane, he peeped the silence. Then came the real shade, or what might have been shade on Jay-Z's 1999 track, Do It Again. Jay spits, I seen the same ish happen to Kane, 3 cuts in your eyebrows trying to wild out. Hold up, not the 3 cuts. We all know that was Kane's signature look, a fashion flex turned cultural stamp back in the golden era. So when Jay-Z dropped that line, some folks thought it was less nostalgia and more a dagger wrapped in a punchline. The tone? Ice cold. The timing? Suspicious. Even radio queen Angie Martinez clocked it. She reportedly called out the lyric on air, wondering aloud if Jay had just dissed the very man who handed him his first co-sign. The rumor mill exploded. Jay stayed quiet. Kane, ever the class act, publicly brushed it off. But make no mistake, he heard it loud and clear, and here's the real kicker. Jay himself has admitted he studied Kane backstage, watched his every move, took mental notes, shaped his presence around it. So when Kane stepped back, it was intentional, a move to let Jay evolve and build his own identity. But now, with decades of distance and an empire between them, Kane's asking himself a heavy question. Did Jay simply outgrow him? Or was he erased on purpose? This ain't just about lyrics. This is about legacy, loyalty, and the price of silence in the spotlight.
I remember actually having a record deal through a production deal with someone else and recording, and then the next thing you know, someone else on the label blew up.
Phew. Now we're getting to the part where the industry politics, street respect, and raw ego start colliding, and it's messy as hell. See, Kane's quiet fade out wasn't just a personal shift, it mirrored something way bigger happening in the rap game. Around the same time Kane was stepping back and letting Jay-Z carve his path, Tupac was stepping up loud, unfiltered, and on a whole different level of real. And what Pac was calling out? It's the exact same game Kane is only now hinting at. The shady transformation of hip-hop from culture to corporate, from craft to clout. Pac saw it before most. He watched the industry shift from lyricists with heart and message to flashier rappers chasing image, branding, and bottom lines. And as the smoke started to rise, Jay-Z's name started popping up in those same conversations. Quiet, calculated, and always business-minded, Jay was nothing like Pac. But the buzz was there because even back then, some folks said Jay knew deep down he couldn't hold a candle to Pac's raw charisma. Like, sure, Jay had the bars, the wit, the clever flips, but Pac was a force. The kind of presence that didn't need a label budget or flashy rollout. He just stepped in the room and everything shifted. And don't get it twisted, there was real tension bubbling under the surface. This wasn't just rap politics. Word on the street was that Jay-Z felt threatened. And soon, things boiled over. .by 1996, Jay was aligning himself closer and closer with Biggie, another Brooklyn giant. And together, they lit the match. That track, Brooklyn's Finest off Reasonable Doubt. It's iconic now, but back then, it was gasoline on a wildfire. Jay and Big, both Bed-Stuy bred, came together for a track that oozed East Coast dominance, and West Coast ears were listening closely. Now here's where it gets deeper. Irv Gotti, who was tight with Jay at the time, tried to wave the red flag. He flat out warned Jay not to put Biggie on the record. Why? Because the East Coast or West Coast beef was already spiraling, and Irv knew that one wrong move could drag Jay into a war he wasn't ready for. But Jay did it anyway. Some say it was about repping Brooklyn. Others say it was a power move. But either way, The message was sent and Pac got it. The lines had been drawn, and from that moment on, Jay-Z and Tupac weren't just on opposite coasts, they were on opposite sides of a cultural war, and if you think that was the end of it, oh, baby, the storm was just beginning.
You gotta go back to Brooklyn's final. I was dead set against it. I was telling Jay, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he was like, why? And I was just like, he's too strong. I said, but before we take over the world, we got to take over the West Coast. Before we take over the West Coast, we got to take over the East Coast. Before we take over the East Coast, we got to take over New York. Before we take over New York, you got to take over Brooklyn. And he owns all that. And I was like, this is not a whack. So I was just like, I was in fear that I was like, yo, you may come off like this little man. You understand?
Now let's rewind the clock and zoom in on the moment the entire East Coast vs. West Coast war detonated because before the bloodshed, the betrayal, and the bars full of venom, Tupac and Biggie were actually tight, brothers in the game. Two lyrical titans with mutual respect, chilling together, even freestyling side by side. But all of that went up in flames in 1994 and the place where it all unraveled, Quad Studios. That night, Pac was set up and shot 5 times in a lobby ambush that still haunts hip-hop history. The moment he touched the floor, bleeding and dazed, everything changed. And while most people feared for his life, Pac's mind was already spinning with questions. Questions that led straight to Biggie and Diddy. See, Pac didn't just think this was a random hit, he believed it was a setup and inside job. And the part that really cut deep, in Pac's eyes, Big and Puff knew something. Even if they didn't pull the trigger, Pac felt like they had info, knew the vibes were off. Knew danger was in the air and still said nothing. That silence, that's what broke him. For Pac, it wasn't just about bullets, it was about betrayal, a street code violation, a violation that he never forgave. Now, to be fair, Biggie always denied knowing anything. He went on record in interviews and behind the scenes, swearing up and down he had nothing to do with the attack and no idea it was coming. But by then, it didn't matter. Pac had made up his mind. And once Pac felt crossed, it wasn't just a grudge, it was war.so. Now imagine Jay-Z standing beside Biggie, dropping Brooklyn's finest during the thick of this storm while Pac's still healing from gunshots and calling out everyone who even breathed near Bad Boy. Yeah, that part. This wasn't just rap beef anymore. This was survival. Allegiances were being drawn in blood, and Jay-Z, whether he realized it or not, had stepped into enemy territory by association, and it only gets darker from here.
Yeah, I think Pac was more upset that that word was getting back to him, that the people that did do this to him was affiliated one way or another with Biggie, and whether they was extorting him or word got back that they was going to do this to Pac. So this is one of the reasons that Pac...
So after the Quad Studio shooting, Pac and Biggie started taking shots at each other in public. Shortly before Jay dropped Brooklyn's finest, Biggie released Who Shot You. Now by this point, the East Coast vs. West Coast beef wasn't just simmering. It was boiling over. Streets were tense, crews were picking sides, and every bar on a track could be taken as a threat. It wasn't just music anymore, it was warfare with a beat. And everyone in the game felt the pressure, especially those sitting near the fire. That's exactly why Irv Gotti stepped in and warned Jay-Z point blank, don't drop that track. With Biggie, not now. Gotti wasn't just being cautious, he knew the climate was volatile. One wrong move and Jay could find himself dragged into the deadliest beef in hip-hop history. But what did Jay do? He dropped it anyway. The track, Brooklyn's finest. The title alone screamed hometown pride, but the verses, they lit a fuse. Especially Biggie's, because Big didn't just throw slick bars, he went straight at Tupac. Subtle to some, but unmistakable to those who knew the context. Biggie called Pac his son, a disrespectful flex that in street terms basically said, you're beneath me. But it didn't stop there. He dropped veiled references to the rumors about Pac and Faith Evans, Biggie's own wife. That was way past lyrical competition, that was deeply personal, and Big made sure the world knew it was intentional. And the fact that this all happened on a Jay-Z record, yeah, that added fuel to a raging inferno. Whether Jay meant to or not, he became a player in the drama. No longer just an observer trying to come up, he was now standing next to the kingpin, throwing jabs at the West. Pac heard it. And let's just say, he didn't take it lightly. So now we've got Jay-Z, who came up under Big Daddy Kane and learned the game from the ground level, standing shoulder to shoulder with Biggie just as Biggie fires shots at the most dangerous man in the rap game, Tupac. Shocker, from that moment on, there was no going back.
What Big did, which I was like, that's why Pac was on Jay, because of Brooklyn's finest. If they have twins, you probably have two Pacs. Get it? Two Pacs. And Jay's on the record with him. So now he's like, you, ain't no like me, Jay-Z. Then he start bombing on.
So after this, Pac started firing shots at Jay-Z on tracks like Bomb First, My Second Reply, and F Frame. By then, fans were expecting Jay to clap back with a full-on diss track, but he never got the chance. Just weeks later, Pac was fatally gunned down in a drive-by in Las Vegas. But here's the twist. Jay did write a response track called Scathing, which was reportedly a brutal diss aimed at Pac. Now here's where things turn ice cold. Jay-Z actually recorded a diss track aimed directly at Tupac, but never released it while Pac was alive. On the surface, it looked like respect, but insiders say it was more about playing it safe. Pac was unpredictable, dangerous with a Mick and alive. He was still a serious threat. But after Pac's death, Jay hit the Apollo stage and performed. That unreleased diss lived. Yep, after the danger was gone, the track came out swinging. And according to DJ Clark Kent, who was right there, the bars were wildly disrespectful. No subtle shade, Jay was letting it all out. Why? Because Jay felt like he had something to prove, a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to show he could hang with or even challenge legends like Pac. But the fact that he waited until Pac was gone, that's what has fans talking. Was it courage or calculated timing?
And it's funny because before he performed the record, he was like, yo, no disrespect to the dead, but you just can't say whatever to me.
Oh, so he actually performed it after Pac passed?
Yeah. Yeah, we was at the Apollo. It was, I will say this, if you can find anybody who was at that show and the Apollo was packed, they will tell you that it was absolutely crazy, the things he was saying. I was like, Lord Jesus. Like when you know when you hear something, it's one thing, but then when you hear it performed, it's like, jeez. It was.
Now this right here, this is where it gets real shady. People been asking for years, why would Jay-Z wait until Tupac was in the grave to finally perform that diss track? Well, the answer might be darker than folks want to admit. Word on them street is that Jay felt relieved when Pac died because deep down, he was intimidated. See, no matter how sharp Jay's wordplay was, he knew Pac had something you couldn't fake, that raw presence, that energy that owned every room. And according to Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, it ran deeper than respect. He claimed Jay was so shook by Pac, there was a time in Vegas where Jay straight up refused to leave his hotel room just because Pac and his crew were nearby. Let that marinate. Jay was scared to step outside in his own city just knowing Pac was around. So when Pac was gone, that pressure vanished. Suddenly, Jay had room to breathe, room to flex, room to drop bars he wouldn't dare spit while Pac was still alive. And when you think about that Apollo performance, it hits different. Now, doesn't it?
Story is that Jay was gonna try to perform in Vegas, but Pac was in Vegas, and him and his dudes now, and they wasn't gonna let Jay-Z come out the hotel. They found out where Jay was at, and Jay wasn't gonna come out the hotel. He was gonna miss that performance or whatever like that. Do that concert, and Jay was scared of the motherfucker. Jay wasn't coming out that hotel. Until he got clearance.
A lot of fans say Jay-Z played it sneaky, never dissing Pac directly while he was alive, but still throwing subliminal shots, hoping Pac would react. And he did every time. Jay and his East Coast crew knew Pac was emotional, and they used that to get under his skin. Behind the scenes, rappers say Jay was jealous not of Pac's lyrics, but of his natural charisma. Jay had bars, but Pac had that unshakable presence. Even Nas later revealed in a Vibe interview that Jay told him, "I'm better than Pac and Biggie." That quiet bitterness, it's been there all along, hiding behind the suits and boardrooms. We were kicking it and he told me that he's better than Biggie. I looked at him like he was crazy. Then he really got crazy and said that Tupac and DMX were not lyricists. I told him that I disagreed with him, that Tupac was the greatest ever, period. Jay-Z's been called a snake, not just for how he moved with Pac, but because he stayed close to Diddy even after rumors linked Diddy to Pac's murder. And when both Pac and Biggie were gone, Diddy started praising Jay, calling him the one who filled their shoes. To fans, that felt less like respect and more like a planned power handoff.
Filled them shoes though. You feel you came in and you know what I'm saying? So we definitely give thanks for you. You know what I'm saying? Because you definitely, you know, came in and I just know how much Big like really looked up to Jay. You know what I'm saying? They looked up to each other. And yeah, that is crazy to have to step into the shoes of like two people, because that's all it was really, was those two people, and they had like the game. They had things on lock. Hov was coming, you know what I'm saying? But like, you know, it was like these two cats was just so big, you know what I'm saying? And then so it's like to have all of that, like, you know, come on you and have that responsibility to keep this shit fly and keep the art of it going. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I think Hov really kept the, Hov kept the art of it going and was able to take where they was at and take it, you know what I'm saying?
And just like that, the mask slips after years of riding with Diddy through all the whispers, scandals, and shady headlines. Jay-Z finally cut T.I.'s, but only after that explosive 2023 Cassie lawsuit cracked everything wide open. Now, all of a sudden, Jay's out here claiming he and Diddy were never even friends, not a brotherhood, not even cool like that. Just straight up amnesia. So what's the real takeaway? Big Daddy Kane quietly hinting at betrayal. Tupac calling out industry snakes before it was cool. Jay-Z moving in silence, borrowing flows, and maybe stepping over the very people who helped build him. Yes, he's a genius. Yes, he's a legend. But behind the success, is Jay-Z's empire built on loyalty or betrayal? Because now, more and more peers are saying it out loud, Jay didn't just play the game. He outmaneuvered everyone in it. And when the dust settled, it wasn't just talent that put him on top, it was cold calculation. But what do you think? Did Jay-Z betray Big Daddy Kane once he made it? Was he ever really threatened by Tupac's glow? And has he finally become the same kind of industry puppet Pac warned us about? Sound off in the comments, cause this one's gonna get heated. And don't forget the next video